What is up, my friends? How are we? You are very welcome along to a brand new week here on Anfield Agenda, and it is Monday night's late night agenda. Tonight we're going to be discussing Ibrahim Konate and his future. Is there yet more links popping up to Real Madrid? We'll be discussing the crazy story around Manchester United's interest in Alexis McAllister. We'll give you some quotes from Vinicius Jr. about his friendship with Dominic Szoboszlai. We'll talk about the FA Cup fifth round draw, which sees Liverpool travel away to take on Wolverhampton Wanderers. We'll ask you guys what you think of that. But first and foremost, tonight we have a poll running in the chat. We've run this poll on our WhatsApp as well, and I want to see if we get a similar vote. We're asking, would an FA Cup trophy win and Champions League qualification be a successful season? Now, you can take that from whatever way you want. If you think from this perspective, from where we are now will be a successful season, maybe you would have been happy with it in the summer, let me know in the comments and we'll try to get stuck into it. I'd seen Keno's comment just before we went live, and I kind of think Keane summarised it quite well. He said, it'd be a good situation from the position we're currently in, but a good season by our standards, definitely not. And I guess perspective is important in this one, so maybe he's right. Maybe we do have to adjust our feelings halfway through the season to make account of or take account of where we're currently at. But let us know. Anyway, we'll leave that poll running and we'll touch back on it in a while. But let's start off tonight, I guess, folks, with a conversation around the FA Cup draw. I'll give it to you in its entirety and then we can talk about why we are happy or not happy with the draw that we've gotten. So, first up, out of the hat was Fulham versus Southampton. Next is Port Vale Bristol City versus Sunderland. Newcastle United got a difficult draw. They're at home to Manchester City. Then it's Leeds United against Norwich City. Mansfield Town get Mikel Arteta's Arsenal. Wolves versus Liverpool, of course, the tie that we're interested in. Wrexham, they get Chelsea at the racecourse ground. And then West Ham United against Macclesfield or Brentford currently taking place. So all in all, it could have been a lot worse, the FA Cup draw. You want a home draw first and foremost, so we didn't get that one. But after that, look, it could have been better, could have been worse. You can't be too displeased with that one. We would be playing Wolves actually twice over the space of a few days. We'll talk about that in a little bit more detail in a minute. But for me, look, I'm happy enough with that draw. As I always say to you guys, I always want a home draw for the friends of ours that are in the Auto Cup scheme so they can get, a few more games to go to. But could have been a lot worse. We avoided any of the big hitters in the competition. No Arsenal, no Manchester City, no Chelsea, no Wrexham, which was a little bit disappointing. As the draw went on, I start wondering, is it going to happen? Are we going to get Wrexham? My own guess was West Ham before the draw, so I got the letter right, just wrong about the club. And on that, we will play Wolves twice over the space of a couple of days. 3rd of March, Liverpool versus Wolves in the Premier League. And then on the 7th or 8th of March, it will be Wolves versus Liverpool in the FA Cup. So, we'll be sick of the sight of them by the time we're finished playing them over those few days. But for me, happy enough with that draw. Like I said, could have been a lot worse. I voted yes, but only from the context of how bad the season has been, said Chris Shaw. It's wild to think even that is achievable. Yeah, I mean, look, context is important. And, we always have to reevaluate our season. We have one set of goals at the start of the season. And as the season goes on, you want to see things pan out in the right way. Right here, as we sit here now, would I consider Champions League qualification and an FA Cup trophy a good season? I would still say I'm probably slightly more to the side of no, but, it would certainly not be a bad season. Any trophy is important. An FA Cup win and Champions League qualification, probably would say, yeah, it's all right. But again, context of where we finish up in the Champions League, how far we go in that competition, and where we actually finish up in the Prem, that'll be needed as well. Like I keep saying, Champions League qualification is important, but for us fans, it certainly isn't a trophy. If you're in that competition, well, you want to think that you could go and win that competition. So let's wait and see how that one all pans out. But look, all in all, I'm probably on the fence somewhat, whether I think it will be a good season or not. Before the season started, I would have said no. I certainly would have expected a bit more from the Reds than maybe an FA Cup win. But, as many of you have said, as the season's gone on, situations change, perspectives change, and maybe we'd be a lot happier. Certainly in our WhatsApp vote, a lot more people say it would be a positive season. I think it's around 60-odd%, maybe even a bit more in WhatsApp voting for yes, it would be a good season. loads to go through tonight. I mean, I want to talk to you about Hugo Ekitike and a good bit of analysis Sky done on his first season with the Reds. I want to talk about some players that Liverpool are looking at as potential options should we lose Mohamed Salah. We'll talk a little bit about Jurgen Klopp. We'll have some comments from Vinicius Jr. about Dominic Szoboszlai, as I mentioned as well. But let's start off with a crazy story that came from the Mirror. And it said, exclusive, Manchester United consider shock Alexis McAllister transfer raid on fierce rivals Liverpool. Now, honestly, for the Mirror to have put this up, I can't actually believe somebody gave this the go-ahead. Because does anybody actually think that there is a world where that happens? You know, why would Alexis McAllister want to leave Liverpool to go to Manchester United for a start? Certainly not a step forward in his career, is it? So that on its own, before we get into the transfer fee, the contract situation at Liverpool and lots more, just makes it feel very, very, very unlikely to me. But I guess, interestingly, what would his valuation be? If I was to say to you guys right now, right, put yourself in the sporting director role, you've decided that maybe you will sell Alexis McAllister, and I'm not saying we have, by the way, but what would you ask? What would be your asking price for a player of Alexis's age with 2 years to go in his contract? World Cup winner, Premier League winner? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. What would his market valuation be? 30 million. That's just ridiculous. Alexis McAllister is worth multiples of 30 million. What did we pay for him? I think we paid about 45, if my memory's right. Something. I think the Mirror said 55, but that seemed high to me. I don't remember Liverpool paying that much for MACCA, but for me, certainly, it would be upwards of 60 million quid for Alexis McAllister at a bare minimum. 120 million for its Frosty. USA Copite said 65. 80 million for Keane, 70 to 80 million for Jonathan Kirkley, 35 million release clause for MACCA. That's what I thought as well. But I swear, maybe have a read of that piece just to double check on the Mirror. But I swear they said we paid £55 million for him. They could be incorrect because I have a memory similar to yours, Keane, that there was certainly somewhere around the £40 million mark in my head. But yeah. Maybe 60 million, said Sean. Certainly upwards of 30, Sean. Yeah, 30 just seems silly. That's a little bit on the low side. We are talking about a World Cup winner here, somebody who's won the Premier League, and he might not have had his best season for us, but I would certainly say he's still worth quite a bit higher than the 30 million we kicked off with. Derek, how are we, my man? Nice to see you. Hope you're well. Said, hey Craig, hope family are okay. If an FA Cup win and Champions League, good season. MACCA can't see him going to Man United. Can't see Dom going to Spain. I hope you're right. Well, I agree with you on the first part, and I definitely hope that you're right on the second part. So, this says, okay, so the figure of 55 million quid is apparently what it could rise to with add-ons. Keane just sent me analysis from Jamie Carragher back in 2023, and it said Alexis McAllister was moved to Liverpool for an initial fee of around £35 million. Sources suggest it could rise to £55 million. Jamie Carragher has hailed the fee and predicted the Reds will also sign more players. So yes, it does seem like it was 35 and going up towards 55. So I think it's probably likely we're at the higher end of that now, because like he's won the league with Liverpool. You'd have to imagine that was one of the clauses. Qualifying for the Champions League, I'm sure, is probably another one. Winning it, well, we haven't done that yet with MACCA. So it's probably fair to say we have paid 45 upwards at this point. So yeah, you would imagine if we were to sell him, you'd be wanting, well, double that probably. And thank you, Keno, for sending that one on to me, man. Appreciate you. That really helped out. Right, so where to go? Let's go into the chat for a minute. Jack, the all-seeing guy, said, I don't trust anybody. That's no way to live, Jack. Gotta have a little bit of trust in life, mate. Question everything, by all accounts. I would certainly say that to you, mate, but you gotta trust some people. Mark said, it's not long ago we replenished our midfield. Why would we want to change it yet? I don't think we want to change it, but I think the situation is we're getting to that stage now where those midfielders that we brought in, Ryan Gravenberch, Alexis McAllister, Dominic Szoboszlai, we're getting to the point where they're probably, due a contract renewal or a contract extension. And also, if you don't, well, then you want to sell at the peak of the value. So if Liverpool, let's say, start, and again, I'm not saying this has happened, but let's just say, for argument's sake, Liverpool were speaking to Alexis McAllister's reps and they said, look, we don't think he's going to sign a new deal. He might fancy a move elsewhere. Well, then you got to take that into account and, maybe adjust your plans accordingly. Like I said, there's no indication that that's happened, just throwing it out there as a hypothetical. MACCA at his best is 100 million upwards, but with the drop off this season, I think £80 million will be fairer, said Keane. McAllister could easily be a double World Cup winner after the summer, so his fee would be massive in my opinion. Yeah, I agree. Certainly, like you've said, 65, 70, anywhere in that ballpark upwards would make sense. But look, most importantly, I'm not trying to come on here and say we're selling Alexis McAllister. We're just talking about that crazy story in the Mirror, and they suggest that Manchester United, yes, Manchester United are interested in trying to sign Alexis McAllister from Liverpool. They dropped Carlos Balaba's name in the article. They talked about Anderson, Wharton, and a few others, but I don't know. Surely this is just to get some clicks on a page or something. I very, very much doubt that there is some concrete information there to suggest that Manchester United think they have a chance to sign Alexis McAllister from Liverpool. Come on. It's just not going to happen. Especially to a rival. And at this point, we've got to say they are rivals. Apart from our long history of being rivals with them, right now, in the race for Champions League spots this season, they're a rival. So the idea of selling them in the summer, if you're going to sell Alexis McAllister if you're Liverpool, you're going to want to sell him outside of the Premier League. Same with most of our top players. You'd always preference them going away from the Prem rather than to another Premier League club. Who'd be our midfielder replacement for MACCA? Again, not trying to say we're selling him, but we talked about this yesterday, and Wharton was the most voted for answer when we put Wharton, Anderson, and a few others. Now, I'm going to move on to talk about Mohamed Salah's situation in a while, because there's been an article suggesting that Liverpool have a short list of 5 players that they're looking at should they lose Mohamed Salah. How do you think Jeremy Jacquet will start his first season in Liverpool performance-wise, said Brad Larkin. Honestly, Brad, I don't know that much about Jeremy Jacquet. I certainly don't watch a lot of French football, so I'm not going to sit here and say that I know we've signed an absolutely world-class central defender. What I do know is those who watch French football and journalists that cover French football say, look, he's raw, you're paying for potential, but he's looked the part so far. Long way to go, though, and, I don't know over the course of time whether this will look like a bargain or will Liverpool look like they'll have had their pants pulled down a little bit. Some people think Liverpool have overpaid. Others think we've done well and gotten a rising star. Like I said, I'll have to wait and see because I really don't know all that much about Jeremy Jacquet other than Chelsea were interested in him as well. Next poll, will Dom renew with us? Love the channel. I think we've run that poll, but I'm happy to do it again. No problem, Josh. Just remind me in a few minutes, bro, if my dumb ass forgets. By the way, have we seen Logan Paul selling that Pokemon card for just shy of $16.5 million? No joke. A Pokemon card. I think he paid just over 5 million quid for it when he bought it and sold it at auction for a Guinness World Record for any trading card, not just from Pokemon, any trading card, $16.48 million. I used to look down on those people. I used to mock people that collected those type of cards. But if I'm missing out on the 16.5 million quid, maybe I should be looking there. Wow, that's crazy. But who the fuck pays that? Like, genuinely, what human being goes, yeah, well, I can tell you who it was. It was Anthony Scaramucci's son who actually bought it. But just in general, who thinks, I know, that's good value. I'm going to pay 16.5 million quid for a piece of cardboard in a little bit of Perspex that's been graded 10 by PSA. Nuts. Absolutely nuts. Imagine having that much money to throw around. I mean, look, from Logan's perspective, if he bought it for 5, sold it for 15, certainly made a nice tidy profit on it. But yeah, at some point you have to think, right, surely something has peaked in value, and I wouldn't be confident of making much on that 16.5 million in the future. Ironhead 460 said, I collect Pokemon cards and I've put £600 in and currently have 2k worth of cards. Wow. Yeah, I don't really understand the trading card world because it's not something I've ever been a fan of, but I collect memorabilia, as you know, and my signed football jersey collection would probably be, well, look, it would be, for me, big money, but, in general, for these type of things, kind of small. But I went through and we did an unboxing last night, myself and Sabrina, just to see all the stuff that we do have for the studio and stuff, and forgot actually some of the bits and pieces that we'd picked up. 1.5 million extra in tax. Ouch. I know there's a buyer's premium, I think, included in that price as well, but yeah, it's just crazy money. Sajid said, according to Transfermarkt, Dom is worth 85 million euros. What do you think? What should be the asking price? Hope he stays. He is in the best place. I always find, personally, that Transfermarkt values are a little bit on the low side. And it varied because it depends on the contract situation, depends on their age. So there are varying factors that go into it. But 85 million euro will be paid 60 million. So you'd have to say the likelihood of us taking anywhere near 85 million euros would be, well, it'll be a non-starter, wouldn't it? So, yeah, for me, I think his market value, I don't want to go over the top here, but I said it the other night, so I'm going to repeat it. If Enzo Fernandez, Declan Rice, if they're all, Moise Caicedo, if they're all 100 million plus midfielders, then genuinely you've got to stick Dominic Szoboszlai into the 100 million plus category. So that's the kind of numbers that I would be valuing him at. But most importantly, I think we should move heaven and earth to make sure that we keep Dom at the football club. We're talking about a future captain here, and I know the comments from the Hungarian national team manager put the shits up us all, but hopefully he stays. On this, Vinicius Jr., speaking about friends that he has in football outside of Real Madrid, said this: I talked to Dominic Szoboszlai a lot. I've known him since we were younger. Hopefully, hopefully Real Madrid don't get anywhere near him, because I'm kind of nervous. I'm not going to lie, folks. The McAllister, the Jones situations, that's not too bad, but this one has me concerned. Really, really, really has me concerned. I'm not saying we have a reason to be concerned. Truth is, I haven't got a clue. But as a fan, yeah, I'm concerned. I don't want us to be losing Dom. I want us to tie him down to a new deal. Craig, no offence, but it surely has to be a lie that Alexis McAllister will go to United. Again, you're not offending me because I didn't write the article. I only report stuff, mate. The Mirror, the Daily Mirror, is the ones you want to be asking about their sources on it, because it's their piece. I actually had to double check at first it wasn't a bluff, but I read the article. It's written by not John Cross, I think it's Jeremy Cross is the author of it. And it said, Manchester United consider shot move for Alexis McAllister. So yeah, I'm with you. I think it's absolute nonsense of the highest order, but it's not my story. This is what makes me laugh sometimes. People come on and they get angry at me about a story. I didn't write it. I'm here to just share stuff with you guys, talking points, and discuss it. I'm not a journalist. I don't write articles. I don't, if I have something to say, if I have a bit of information, I'll come flat out and say it, but I can only report what's written, and yeah, I think it's almost laughable, to be quite honest with you. Dom doesn't have a number. Vinicius can do one. He absolutely can do one, Josh. And, his own future Real Madrid's up in the air as well, isn't it? Vinicius Jr. So, yeah, let's wait and see. Right, ladies and gents, where are we at? So, here's Arne's slot on whether Dominic Szoboszlai could be a future Liverpool captain. This is what Arne had to say. Yes, but he's still young. I think he has a lot of attributes already, especially when it comes to leading by example. And that is one thing that really I admire about Dom. One of my favourite attributes of Steven Gerrard's was that he was a captain that did lead by example. You know, he was vocal out there on the pitch, yes, but he led by grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck and taking people along with him. So Arne said there's still a step to make in terms of leadership, being vocal, being a voice in the dressing room if I compare him to Virgil van Dijk, which is completely normal because Virgil's 34 and is probably seeing James Milner and Jordan Henderson, these players. So it's really good for Dom that he sees Virgil as well. That will be the next step for him, to be as vocal and as loud as Virgil is. That comes with time, I think. But for all the other things, he has a lot to become a very influential player for Liverpool, and you could call that a leader. I do think, though, that leading by example, that's the type of leader that Dom would be, whereas others, like you said, Virgil, Henderson, would be a bit more vocal. Craig, I can see Dom in a Madrid shirt. Yeah, we said this the other night. I could do it as well. You know, I could see him in a Madrid shirt. Couldn't see him in a Barca shirt. But let's hope we don't ever have to see him in a Madrid shirt, mate. But like you, I could see him in a Madrid shirt, yeah. I can envision him in one. I just hope that that's all I ever have to do is envision it and not actually look at it. Right, where are we on to now? Jurgen Klopp. Let's talk a little bit about Jurgen Klopp. So, Anfield Edition posted something from Jurgen Klopp's long-term advisor, who said he's extremely happy with what he's achieved, and it's still wonderful to go down in history as one of the few coaches who only managed 3 clubs and was never fired, which is true. So, you know, all the noises that keep coming out around Klopp are that he isn't going to take another job, despite all this Real Madrid nonsense that keeps coming up over and over again. Coutinho or Wirtz? Wirtz. Coutinho was a wonderful footballer, but I don't think we ever seen him reach his full potential, because when he went to Barcelona, his career stalled. If he had stayed at Liverpool, who knows where Felipe Coutinho would have gone on to, you know, be, what stature of a player he would have gone on to become. But Florian Wirtz, for me, sincerely, and I said it when we signed him, I think he's a player that can win a Ballon d'Or. I really, really do. I'm not saying he's going to, but I think he has that level of ability. Right, so many things to go through tonight. So let's start off with a conversation around Hugo Ekitike. So Sky did a good piece earlier on, a segment on Hugo Ekitike in his first season at Liverpool, and then they did some comparables to other players. So he's already played more games in one season for Liverpool than he has at any other point in his career. The most before this was last season when he played 32 games for Eintracht Frankfurt. But already this season, Hugo Ekitike has been involved in 35 games for Liverpool, by far the most in his career, and there's still plenty of the season left to go. The fewest minutes per goal at Liverpool, they put up that graphic as well. And he sits, Daniel Sturridge tops the pile with a goal every 135.9. Mohamed Salah with a goal every 136.4. Luis Suarez, 138.8. Diogo Jota, 148.1. May he rest in peace. And Hugo Ekitike, 152 minutes per goal so far in his Liverpool career, ahead of Divock Origi and Christian Benteke, who are lower on the list. But the most interesting part of all of this to me was when they compared Hugo Ekitike in his first season with Victor Gyökeres, Benjamin Sesko and Nick Woltemade. Of course, all pretty big name signings this summer in the Premier League. And he beats them pretty much in every metric other than one. Benjamin Sesko has more shots per 90, with 3.6 shots per 90 compared to Hugo Ekitike's 3.4. But every other metric, Ekitike was out in front. He scored the most goals. He has 10 goals. Victor Gyökeres 8, Benjamin Sesko 6, and Nick Woltemade 7. XG, Hugo Ekitike is outperforming his XG. He has an XG of 8.4, but he has 10 goals. So as we see, he's overperforming his XG. Other stats, touches per 90 minutes. Well, we know he likes to get involved in play. He likes to drop into pockets of space. He has 36.7 touches per 90 minutes. So, yeah, plenty. Even dribbles, 3.4. So, you know, more than any other player of those 4 that came in. And he wasn't even our biggest money transfer with regards to being a striker. So, yeah, well done to Hugo Ekitike. Again, it's definitely a piece worth giving some consideration. If you have the Sky Sports app or whatever, I'd say give a little look at it. It's a good piece of analysis, but it just shows us that we did bring in the right guy. He is overachieving so far this season, and who knows where the future lays for him or how high and how good he might get, because I think we'll all agree he's had a wonderful start to his Liverpool career. Paddy Wacker said, Craig, when I heard you talking about Wirtz, I didn't know how good he was. Man, this is a world-class player. To see him compared to move to Premier League, what a superstar. What really impressed me about Florian Wirtz was that he was willing to move to the Premier League at that young age. It speaks volumes for exactly where his head's at, how elite he is, and how good he wants to become. Now, on that, Bayern Space put up a very interesting post talking about Bayern Munich still being interested. Now, this is going to take me a couple of minutes to read out, so bear with me as I go through it. But Bayern Munich, well, they still have ambitions to try to bring him in, but it looks like, thankfully, according to this account anyway, we've got nothing to worry about. So this is what Bayern Space have written about the situation with Florian Wirtz. They say, I can now reveal that in recent days, Uli Hoeneß made contract with Hans-Joachim Wirtz, his father and agent, and after Florian's tremendous Premier League form and seamless adjustment forced his way into the Bayern headquarters, despite quiet hopes in some corners of Munich that the step abroad might prove too big, too fast, too unforgiving. The outreach was calculated rather than spontaneous. It followed a similar and familiar Bayern playbook: offer congratulations, rebuild warmth, re-establish emotional proximity, and subtly remind the family that the door home is never locked. The subtext was unmistakable. Should nostalgia or comfort ever begin to outweigh ambition, Bayern Munich would be waiting. In the same strategic patience the club applied in the Leroy Sané case during his Manchester City period, maintaining dialogue over time, preserving trust, quietly positioning themselves so that when a contract edge approached and circumstances shifted, the groundwork had already been laid. Bayern assumed a similar long-term framework could be installed here. That steady contact and institutional gravity might eventually bend their direction. In this instance, however, the reading of that situation was flawed, and this is the part that you're going to like. Wirtz's father answered without the slightest pause, making it unmistakably clear that Florian Wirtz's journey in England is not a temporary interlude before a nostalgic return to Germany, but a long-term committed design to peak, flourish, and ultimately conclude at Liverpool, England's most mythical, aura-drenched and historically towering institution, a club woven in the very mythology of the sport with no hidden clause for a sentimental homecoming. There is no conceivable scenario in which Florian returns to the Bundesliga, neither at the height of his powers nor in the twilight of his career, because he does not see Germany as unfinished business, and it's worth noting that not even Spain tempts him, as both stand beneath the summit he believes he already occupies. From Florian's perspective, a move to Bayern was never an unwritten chapter, but a throne imagined in Munich's own chronicles, and whatever it tried to proclaim a destiny now collapsed like an empire of marble with hollow foundations, undone by a history that was never theirs to shape. Yeah, a lot to unpick there. Very descriptive piece, very well written piece, a very highbrow piece. But ultimately, the gist of it is he doesn't want to go back to Germany. He views Liverpool in the Premier League as the pinnacle. And thankfully, the part in that really jumped off the page to me was that he's no intention or no want to go to Spain at any point. And that made me feel pretty good as a Liverpool fan. You know, that is exactly what we want to hear. You know, we know that he had options everywhere. He could have gone over to Madrid. He could have gone to Bayern. He could have gone to Man City. But he chose to come to Liverpool. And he's settling in really well. We're all starting to fall more and more in love with him. You can see the impact he's having and the influence is growing each game as well. So yeah, there you go. Pretty good news on the Florian Wirtz situation. Yes, very poetic piece. It was a hard read for me there when I was going through it. I was like, right, Craig, don't mess this up. Come on, you can do this, Craig. There's some big words in there, dum-dum, but you can get through this. Right, let's check in on our poll. We do have a poll running, ladies and gentlemen, where we asked, would an FA Cup win and Champions League qualification count as a good season for you? Craig, has Jimbo forgiven you for Curtis? Sort of, yeah. Look, Jimbo's a good. He's only joking with me, but I couldn't believe it because he sent it to me, and normally it's the other way around. Normally I'm trying to talk him into something, and he goes, "Nah." But he showed me the 7-1 for Jones to score, and I said, "Look, he's playing a right back today, mate." So yeah, I think he's forgiven me, but I probably owe him a favour. Damon, how are you, mate? So Craig, how many goals and assists do you think Ekitike and Wirtz get by the end of the season? Oh man, I don't know. Ekitike, well, where are we at now? Are we talking about Prem only? Or are we talking all comps? I'll give you all comps. Let's say if Ekitike can get above 15, 16 goals and whatever about assists, that would be a very, very good return for his first campaign. And Wirtz was the other one, was it? I don't know, actually, on Florian Wirtz. Yeah, I really don't know. Certainly seems to be finding his shooting boots now. So I would imagine we're going to see a little burst of goals from him over the next while. But I guess the hope is that Florian Wirtz really comes into his own when we get to the business end of the season, the business end of the Champions League. So I don't know on numbers wise though. Yeah, I never really think too deeply about them. Right, what else have we got? I feel like we've a load to get through tonight. This account here said, it's an account called Dom at footy_road, said Szoboszlai is the first Liverpool central midfielder since Steven Gerrard to reach double-digit goals, which is even more insane as he played several games at right back. And it kind of got me thinking, I used to take it for granted that midfielders like that will be scoring double-digit goals most seasons. Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, that era of the Premier League was just goals from midfield all over the shop. But we really haven't had that many in recent years, have we? Too many goals coming from midfield. So seeing Dominic Szoboszlai start to do it, you can understand why those comparisons are start to be made then to the likes of Steven Gerrard. Where else have we got? Bayern space turned into Shakespeare when talking about Flo and us. Well, they've been on the money with a lot of the Vert stuff over the course of the season, so fair play to them. I think it's a very good account. It's an account that was mocked by Bayern fans at first as a bit of a parody, but as the months have gone on, the information is proven to be more right than wrong. Wonder if the Nunez no finishing Kurt stayed. He scored 2 today, actually, believe it or not. He was playing for Al Hilal, and remember the fact he's only able to play for them in the Champions League now. And he scored a brace today. So they were 2-1 up last time I'd seen the live score on it. But yeah, he scored a brace today for them. I feel Klopp mainly had a workmanlike midfield, not a goal-grabbing one. That's a fair point, Ben. And look, an industrious midfield. That's the phrase I would use. But yeah, you're right. I don't want to say the phrase water carrier, but you know where I'm going with that. He wanted legs in midfield. He wanted, players to get stuck in, to cover every inch of the pitch and then give the ball to the players who do the damage at the other end of it. But yeah, I agree with you. But it is still lovely to have a central midfielder who is getting into double digits. Yasir said, "Hey Craig, how are you doing? How's the family? How's everything going?" Yeah, good. I hate these quiet times from a channel perspective. I love the quiet individual streams when we have a chat, but it always makes me very nervous when the channel's a little bit quieter than normal. I always feel like everyone's going to run away and forget about us. But I've been keeping an eye on other Liverpool outlets, and I just think it's quiet enough at the minute around Liverpool in general. Right, let's check in on our poll. When we get up to 1,500 votes, we'll knock this one on the head. What we're asking for tonight to kick us off is, would an FA Cup win and Champions League qualification be a good season? Keane said, Klappo didn't want to waste time in midfield. He wanted the ball given to the dangerous forwards as quickly as possible. We've a little bit on Ibrahim Kanade I want to bring up in a few minutes, actually. And we haven't spoken about the Mohamed Salah list either, so let me talk you through that one in a few minutes. We'll just keep going with this one. Craig, here's my worry. Hear me out. We all love Hugo, but what happens if Isak comes into the side, pushes Hugo into our sub or super sub? Do you think we can keep both happy at Anfield? Yes, I do. I do think we can keep both happy. Competition's a good thing. And with the amount of games that Liverpool are going to play across all competitions in the season, I would think there's easily a minimum of 40 games each for them to be had. Now, the real question comes in, can we get both of them on the pitch together? And the answer to that is unsure. It depends what way the manager wants to go. Will he go and switch systems at some point to play with two up top? Will one of them drop into the left-hand side? Or, will it just be a rotational thing? Right now, though, Paddy Wacker, what I feel comfortable in saying is that the starting position right now is Hugo's. And it's up to Isak when he comes back to give the manager something to think about. I know his price tag will probably weigh heavy and there will be lots of articles written about it and lots of pressure. But you can't knock Hugo Ekitike in what he's done so far this season. He's been nothing short of sensational. So it's up to Mr. Isak to work his socks off when he gets back fit and available and convince the manager that he's the guy. Jeff Porter said, for me, Salah has to finish top four and win both cups if he wants to keep his job. This season and the back of last season were not good enough. Partying before the season ended was pathetic. So just as a bit of an aside to that, Jeff, technically if we won both cups, we wouldn't need to worry about the league position because you'd go into the Champions League as you're defending champions, you go straight into the competition. But I do get where you're coming from. I'm going back and forth on it. Like, I've been thinking about it since I put the poll up earlier on WhatsApp. Would I consider it a successful season? I don't think I would use the word successful, but I definitely think it would be a season salvaged into the realms of acceptability from nowhere near it. Because it's all we know right now is we're not going to be winning the Premier League and we're not going to be winning the League Cup. But apart from that, we're dealing in hypotheticals. We could go and win the FA Cup. I mean, the draw certainly looks like a quarter-final there is very achievable. With due respect to Wolves, you would expect us to come through in that tie. And then in the Champions League, look, we're just going to have to wait and see how the playoffs and that go and see who we end up getting. But at least we're in it, At least we're in it. And while we're in it, as they say in poker, once you have a chip in a chair, you always have a chance. But I certainly... I'm going to need to see a little bit more consistency of performance from us before I feel in any way confident that we can go on and do that. But we are still there. And, we've always said, if you can peak at the right time for the Champions League, you never know. Anything's possible. So again, I know there's some more people coming in. Just in case you haven't seen the FA Cup 5th round draw, this is it in its entirety. Fulham, Southampton. Port Vale or Bristol City against Sunderland, Newcastle against Manchester City, Leeds United against Norwich, Mansfield Town versus Arsenal, Wolves versus Liverpool, Wrexham versus Chelsea, and West Ham United versus Macclesfield or Brentford. And if I remember correctly from your chat, I think Brentford were 1-0 up, if I remember correctly from the comments that I caught out of the corner of my eye a minute ago. Right, where are we at here? Right, we need 50 more votes, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, folks, please do. And don't forget to drop a like on the stream as well. This really does help push the channel out there and make a big, big difference to us. What would be a good season in your opinion? From here, look, if you finish 4th and won an FA Cup, it wouldn't be a good season, but it would be an acceptable season from the situation we're in. But it does need some context of the Champions League. Just as an example, if we got knocked out in the first knockout round of the Champions League again, it would feel very hollow. Sitting back again, knowing that we've got no Champions League to play for, we're not going to win the Prem. It would feel a little bit anticlimactic. Although a trophy is a trophy. So... yeah, what would be a good... At this point, for him to have a good season, he has to win the Champions League. It's as simple as that for me. For a good season, he's got to win the Champions League. Yeah, and that's it, because they're the two for me. At the start of the season, it was the Prem and the Champions League. They're the two biggies. They're the ambition, and to call it a successful season, I'd say you have to have won one of those, especially with the investment we made in the squad that we have. Heavy Metal D said, "Evening, Craig. Hope you're doing well. And I have a question for you. No problem. Who's been the best French player we've ever had? Mine is Cisse." God, it's a tough one. I mean, it will be Ekatike. I feel confident about that over time. Gibril Cisse is probably a good show. I mean, Anelka, if we had assigned him, we probably would have been saying him, but we only had him on loan and we never made that permanent. I still, by the way, that still annoys me that we didn't make that Nicholas Anelka deal permanent. Yeah, right now though, probably Anelka's certainly the most high caliber French player we've had, but never really got to know him too well because he was only here on loan. So I'd probably still say Anelka, if I'm being honest with you at this point. But Ekatike will be the answer. He will be the answer in years to come. Keane said, "If we didn't spend that amount of money in the summer, would you be more accepting of a top four and FA Cup this season?" Yeah, that's a good question, Keane. It's hard to say because, if we didn't spend the money, we probably wouldn't have lost some of the players. So, I don't know, man. It's a difficult one. Any season going from winning the Premier League to be nowhere near it the next season kind of does feel a bit hollow. So would I accept it without it? I certainly wouldn't have been calling for his head as manager. Let me say that. But I don't know. That's the honest answer. I still think more context will be needed, but I'd probably be more likely to feel a bit more lenient about it than I would with the money we did spend. Hey Craig, Dom is said to have dreamed of Madrid, but I remember he has Gerrard tattoo, so I got no doubt he loves being at Liverpool. Well, as you said, Jason, it was the Hungarian national team coach that came out and spoke about Dominic Szoboszlai's dream of playing for Madrid since he's kicked the football. And then Vinicius Jr. name dropping him as well doesn't help. So he was asked, "Do you have friends in football outside of Real Madrid?" And he said, "I talked to Dominic Szoboszlai a lot. I've known him since we were younger." So I don't know. That's I just want him to sign a new deal, and I hope that he does. You'd have to say, if you're going through a list of priorities now for the club, outside of Ibrahim Kanade, of course, whose contract is up, and Andy Robertson, whose contract is up, Dominic Szoboszlai's name should be right at the top of the list for the next round of contract extensions. Anthony said, "Was just about to say Anelka, still annoys me we didn't sign him, but that clown bot Juff was brought in." I know, that just rubbed salt in the wounds, didn't it? That we had Anelka, I think, was it 12 million was the option or something like that to buy him? And we didn't, and we went out and bought him. Yeah, the fella whose name I don't even want to say out loud because it annoys me so much. Right, let's switch it up a little bit. Let's talk about Mohamed Salah long-term replacements. So Graham Bailey has said, I believe of Team Talk, has said, as well as Bayern Munich's Michael Olise, Liverpool have Leipzig's Yan Diamonde, Athletic Club's Nico Williams, and Paris Saint-Germain duo Bradley Barcola and Desiree Doué all on their list as potential heirs to the Mohamed Salah throne at Liverpool. So, of those players, and I can't put them all in a poll, so I need one to leave out. Give me one player to leave off the list, and then we'll do a poll on the other four on which ones of that list you would prefer. Because we can only fit 4 names in the poll. So which is the one that we definitely don't want? I'm guessing it's Barcola. But, maybe you think otherwise. Let me know in the comments. But, as I said, Yan Diamonde, Nico Williams, Bradley Barcola, Desiree Doué, and Michael Olise. We'll have to leave one of those off the list, but we'll wait and see. I'm gathering Barcola is probably the one you'd want off the list. Yeah, Barcola seems to be. Yeah, you're grand. We'll leave Barcola off. I know I said to somebody else I'd do another poll, and I will. I promise you, just remind me to get back to it. So, we asked, would an FA Cup and Champions League qualification be a good season? 64% of you guys said yes, and thank you so much to everyone that voted. That tallies pretty much of what we're seeing in our vote on WhatsApp. And if you want to join the Anfield Agenda WhatsApp, ladies and gents, you can do so by scanning the QR code there on the screen. You'll also see the post in there on how to enter a giveaway for that framed, signed Jurgen Klopp shirt that we're giving away this month with thanks to our friends at the Collector's Corner. Right, let's get into this one. So, let me type this out. Bear with me a second. Okay, so let me just go through the list again. Okay. And one more. Right, so who would you take as a Salah replacement? Elise, Doué, Nico Williams, or Diamonde? Do let me know. For me, on that list, Elise is the dream. Elise is the dream. After Elise, I'd probably err towards Desiree Doué, but I haven't watched all that much of Yan Diamonde, like I said to you guys yesterday, so I might be doing him a disservice, but Elise be the dream, and then after that, for me, probably Doué. But again, I don't know enough about Yan Diamonde. Tom, how are you, bro? 30 months with us, man. Thank you so much. Said, hope all is well, Craig. Thanks for all the content. It's not too bad, Tom, man. It's not too bad. Connor's away for a few days, so it's just me holding down the fort at the minute, and yeah, I'm good. I'm good. It's been a bit of a hectic day as always, but, you know, I'd rather a busy day than a quiet one. When Isak comes back, 4-4-2 diamond with Wirtz and Ekitike. Potentially, but again, we still need to make sure we have width from somewhere, and you know, a 4-4-2 diamond. Yeah, you know, we can make that work. We've seen it utilised on occasion before. I don't know. Look, I just have this mad dream of a 3-5-2. I just do, and I just don't think it's ever going to happen with Arna. But I've always thought since the signings we've made last summer that 3-5-2 was something with the right amount of centre backs we could really look at. Jaden Thomas said, Craig, I think Jurgen had a vision of playing Gakpo as a super sub, striker, and a central midfielder, not a starter or left wing because he doesn't have the speed or skills. Well, I was talking about this one yesterday. I think that the biggest gripe people have this season with Gakpo is that there isn't the other option. You know, I might be wrong on this, but my instinct tells me that because we've got no Luis Diaz and he hasn't really, you know, played young Rio much, fans are just frustrated because when it's not working on the left side, the options to change it just aren't there. Whereas in the past, you know, you could have just switched it up, brought in Luis Diaz or vice versa. And I think the fact that we didn't bring in anybody to replace him has added to the grief that we're seeing this season for Cody Gakpo, because I don't think Cody Gakpo's changed too much between this season and last season, in all honesty. Ella, how are you, my friend? Said, hope all is well. My nerves are gone watching the Coventry game. I have no idea, Ella, what the crack is there with the Coventry game or the score. I don't really follow the Championship all that much, to be honest, but I know you've certainly found, should we call it a second home? Maybe a third, because Bohemians, Liverpool, Coventry, I know they're the three clubs that you have close to your heart. So yeah, whatever's happening, Ella, I hope that you're happy anyway. Vinicius Jr. is available for us Vinicius Junior can go and fuck himself. In all honesty, I don't want Vinicius Junior anywhere near Liverpool Football Club. Not nowhere near it, and I don't know any Liverpool fan that does. You know, yeah, no, thank you. He's the poster boy for everything I don't like about Madrid. Him and Bellingham. Even though I wanted Bellingham at Liverpool, and I'm not trying to rewrite history, I very, very much did. But since he's gone there, I think the unlikability factor has gone up, and Vinicius Junior. No, I don't want Vinicius Junior. I really, really don't. I cannot say that strongly enough. Why? Because he's a pain in the arse. That's why. With all due respect, he's a pain in the arse. Football 365 are saying we're looking at Anthony Gordon, 95 million replacement for Salah. I've seen a couple of pieces start to kind of pop up, and we discussed it a little bit yesterday. The Anthony Gordon situation. Look, I don't know, really. I've had my say on Anthony Gordon before. I think Anthony Gordon would have been an understandable addition to bring into Liverpool, but will we revisit that situation with Rio Engamoa having gone through another season? Probably not. I wouldn't expect it, but nor do I want to go through a summer having to deal with all the Newcastle crap again. They've got the Sandro Tonali headache coming. So, especially at 95 million, like, come on. That's just stupid money. I like Anthony Gordon as a footballer, I do, but £95 million is just absolute insanity. What trophies do you want in the next 5 seasons? I mean, simple answer, mate. All of them. Respectfully, all of them. I want Liverpool to be as successful as possible, same as yourself. But it's impossible to say what might be possible in 2, 3, 4 seasons because we really don't know. We really don't know what the lay of the land's going to be. What our squad's going to look like, what our peers are going to look like. Our competitors around us. We just don't know. So you just want Liverpool to be as successful as possible, I guess, is the short answer. Craig, here's a choice. Would you swap Wirtz for Elise in the summer? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I love Michael Elise. Honestly, he would be my dream to bring in when Mohamed Salah's time at Liverpool's over. But no way would I swap him. It's a really good question though, but there's no way would I swap him for Florian Wirtz. I wouldn't swap anybody for Florian Wirtz. Nobody. Well, maybe Amal. Maybe Amal. But outside of that, no. That's probably it for me. Pedri, I know a lot of people will say Pedri, but Pedri kind of strikes me as a player that's suited to the Spanish league and the way Barca play. And a wonderful footballer, no doubt will do great things with Barcelona. But Wirtz, he's our boy. And I still pinch myself that he's a Liverpool player. I really do. Go Bricker said 95 million is scandalous. I'd pay 40 to 60 for him. See, I'm with you. I'm probably at the higher end of your valuation, but I think about 60. 60 sounds about right for me. 60, maybe 65 at a push for Anthony Gordon. Anything over that, and I just think we're entering into the realms of lunacy. Should we extend VVD's contract? I don't think we can answer that question yet. He's got 1 and a bit years to go, and I think that's certainly something we could have this conversation next season. You don't want to say yes or no right now because there's still a lot of football to be played on his contract. So, but I have said many times, and I'll repeat it. Virgil van Dijk, I truly do believe, can play till he's 36, 37, 38 at the top level, no problem. He's not somebody that looks like he's aging overnight or anything like that. And one of his strengths has always been his reading of the game and his aerial ability, and that's not going to go away anytime soon. So certainly wouldn't rule out the possibility of it, but I think it's too early to be committing to it. Stevie boy, how are we? Do you believe Mo Salah has made his mind up on leaving the club? You know what it means when I adjust myself on my seat, Stevie boy, don't you? It means I'm about to get serious. Do I believe Mohamed Salah has made his mind up on leaving the club? Yes, I do. Now, I've nothing to say that that's the case. It's just an opinion. And I said this the other day. It feels to me, and it really only came to me when we played the last game in the FA Cup against Brighton. But it just felt to me like he was a player that had come to a place of contentment, a place of acceptance, a place that, you know, whatever happens between now and the end of the season, he wants to enjoy himself. He wants to savour it. He wants to take in every moment. And you've seen him tapping the badge and standing there in front of the Kop. It just felt to me a player that just, yeah, I do think he's made his mind up. And I do think he's going to leave in the summer. But I have nothing to say that that's the case. I have no information or anything like that. It's just a gut feeling based off observing him. He seems happy. We're about to head into Ramadan, by the way, so there will be breaks put into any games that are taking place. I think sunset's scheduled to be somewhere between 5:30 and 6 o'clock, something like that. So any evening games, there will be breaks for players who are observing Ramadan and who need to, obviously, when the sun goes down, to take on some nutrition. So keep that in mind. I mean, there's been a few pieces written about that today. And I think for us, it's Kanade and Salah, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, are the well, they're the only two Muslim players I can think of off the top of my head that still play for the Reds. So, yeah, do keep that in mind. We're heading towards Ramadan now. So, yeah, I do, Stevie boy. Anyway, sorry, mate. To get back to your question, I do, but I don't know how others feel. Do you guys think that Mohamed Salah has made his mind up that he's going to leave in the summer? Just something in the body language, Stevie boy, and the way he's playing with a bit more of a smile on his face, a bit more contentment. But it could just be that he's happy, It could just be he's come back from the AFCON and, things feel a bit better for him and Liverpool's in a bit of a better place. Maybe he just feels like there's more success to be had this year. James said, I think he's realising that he's part of the team and not just pulling us forward. He actually trusts the people brought in. Yeah, that understanding is certainly improving. And, the goal that he laid on for Szoboszlai, I mean, that whole goal was just wonderful. From the work from Cody Gakpo to the switch up to Mohamed Salah, the beautiful cushion ball into the path of Dom, and then, of course, the finish from Dominic Szoboszlai wasn't too shabby either. Christina said, I think maybe Mo has just made peace with the situation in general, knowing his time is winding down, whether it'll be this summer or next. Yeah, I mean, absolutely fair, Christina. Truth is, we don't know. There's definitely been a lot of, how do I say this? The media around Liverpool seems to be a bit more open to the possibility of it being this summer. If you're looking at some of the pieces written, I spoke about James Pearce when it kind of said, if this is to be the long goodbye for Mohamed Salah, and there's a couple of other bits and pieces that have said that Liverpool are open to selling him this summer, and even more that say that there's been communication between Al Ittihad, Mohamed Salah and his representatives, and it's been far more positive in nature than previous ones where it's been, yes, look, if we do move to the Saudi Pro League, we can talk, but right now we're still focused in Europe. And what I said yesterday, I'll repeat again. If Mohamed Salah is to stay in Europe, I want it to be with Liverpool. I don't want to see him go to PSG or anywhere else. If he's going to stay in Europe, I want to see him finish out his time with Liverpool. If he wants to go to the MLS, he wants to go to the Saudi Pro League, fair enough. But right now, he's a Liverpool player. I'm certainly going to enjoy the rest of him for this season and then see what happens. But it'll be an interesting one because from Liverpool's perspective, it's almost a unique situation. There's not many times where you're going to have a player who's 34 and you're going to have the ability to maybe get 30 to 50 million pound for them, as well as getting what 20 million quid a year off the books on wages. So I certainly don't know what way Michael Edwards, Richard Hughes and FSG will be looking at this, but feels like it's possible this summer. Jennifer said Liverpool want fees for VVD and Mo. Both will be off in the summer. I don't know. Will they get a fee for Virgil though? Like, I really don't know on the Virgil one. As somebody said earlier on, they asked, do I think he'll extend? I think there's a world where that could be possible, that Virgil extends for another year. So with him, I feel a little bit less likely that Liverpool would look to recoup a fee. Because to recoup a fee for Virgil, then you're looking at selling Virgil this summer. And that is something we just cannot do. You know, because if Canade left and Virgil left, then you've got Jeremy Jacquet, Giovanni Leone, Joe Gomez. I mean, that's just madness. So, yeah, I can't see a world where Liverpool look to get a fee for Virgil. I just can't. Do you think Dom got better because of Slaughter himself? I mean, I don't want to be unfair to Arne in my answer, so I will say I just think he's settled in fully into Liverpool, the league, and he feels like an important part of the team. That's the way I try to think about it. Last season it was a decent season. There was some struggles before. I don't want to take away credit from Arne either, but whatever the reason be, he has improved this season. And it's been a joy to watch. And look, I don't want to do the manager a disservice either. If he's been part of the reason why Dom has progressed, fair play. But he has progressed, and I'm, as a Liverpool fan, just happy about that. Have you noticed I'm trying to be a bit more, is respectful the word? Open-minded about the situation with Arne. I'm certainly not trying to insert my feelings into every conversation here with the manager situation. Someone just said Fabrizio just posted about MACCA. What did he post, if you don't mind me asking? Because I don't have X. So, even if I want something, I knew today about the Bayern's post, but I had to go into Discord and ask somebody to link me to the exact post for the Bayern Space post about Virt. So, yeah, I don't know what he said. Oh, it was on YouTube. So what did he say then? If he was speaking about MACCA, what did he say? I think I'm probably on my own here, but I've never been able to take a liking to Fabrizio Romano. I don't see him as something that adds to the football world. I see him as something that creates more panic in the football world. He's obviously very connected and, very, very popular, but I've just never been able to really, I have a lot of respect for David Ornstein as an example. I don't agree with everything David would say, but I have nothing but respect for the man and what he does. Romano, I just find a bit more, what's the word I'd be looking for, to be fair about it? Agenda driven is probably a fairer one. Do you think we'll struggle against Wolves the FA Cup quarterfinals? It's not the quarterfinals. We're a round away from that. It's last 16. It's a cup tie. It's the FA Cup. You never know what could happen. We could pick up a red card in the first 2 minutes. We could concede an early goal. But do I think we'll get through the tie? Yes, I do. Respectfully, we should be going and beating Wolves in the FA Cup. We play them twice over the course of a few days. We play them in the league on the 3rd of March, and then 7th or 8th of March we'll be playing them in the FA Cup. So, yeah, we should be getting through that, though. Let's be honest. If you were putting a tenner on it, you'd be putting a tenner on Liverpool to go through. Did you know Fabrizio Romano supports Watford? Yeah, I believe that he supports Watford about as much as I believe that I'm going to wake up with a 12-inch manhood tomorrow. He seems to, I think the Potsy family probably is a connection in there from, but deep down I always feel like Chelsea is the club that he's got the soft spot for, if I'm being honest with you. Would I trust Arne for another season? At this moment in time, no. No. But somebody asked me the question yesterday, am I open to being won back around by Arne? I'm always open. I try not to close off any avenue in life fully. But as I sit here right now, and again, all these things are an evolving situation, and my opinions will vary over the course of time. It depends how we progress over the next while. I really enjoyed, and I think it was probably our best performance of the season against Brighton. But I would be the first one to sit here and also say to you that Brighton are a team that will come and play the way Arne wants us to be played against. They'll come and have a go. They won't sit back. There will be tougher tasks ahead for us, the tougher locks for us to unpick than Brighton. Nottingham Forest away is going to be a good measuring stick of where we're at. They've got new manager, obviously, in Vita Pereira. We've got a full 8 days recovery. They have not Champions League, Europa League knockout qualification game midweek. So that's going to be a measuring stick of where we are. We've also got West Ham, Wolves, and Spurs coming up. So you got to get 10 to 12 points from those games. But if he pulls the trophy out of his backside, does well in the Champions League, whether it be winning it or not, who knows? But here's what I won't believe. I won't believe that the club are going to back him until I see them talking about a new deal with him. Because before that, everything else is just waffle to me. Because in the last summer, there was talk about a contract extension. You all remember it being written about. You all remember journalists talking about it. And that's gone very, very quiet as the season has gone on. And that's why I find it difficult to believe that there's this unwavering belief and backing of Arne. But I'm also concerned about the contract situation overall. Because it's not just Arne's contract that's up in, 16 months or 17 months. Richard Hughes, Michael Edwards, both their deals set to expire at the same time. We have situations with Gravenberch, McAllister and Szoboszlai, who are getting to the point now where their contracts are going to have to be looked at. We've got a couple of players who are out at the end of this season. And one question that I would have would be, why are we leaving contract extension renewals so late? Like Virgil spoke about the fact that ideally he would have liked to have sorted his out earlier and it wasn't his choice for it to go that late. So it's a very risky game for the club to be leaving contract renewals that late. So yeah, that has me worried. Like we've seen it happen with Mo. We've seen it happen with Trent, who obviously went to Madrid. We've seen it happen with Virgil. And now we're seeing it happen with Canade. I'm still on the fence with Arne, but better right now. That's kind of where I'm at, Paul. See, people awful, that's not even a sentence. We'll try that again. People often try to pigeonhole a comment I make or somebody makes and hold that comment to them for the entirety of time. It's not that hard to figure out as a fan, right? If the team's doing well, you're happy. If the team isn't doing well, you're asking why. And for me, the why this season had a lot of it been down to Arne. Now, if he corrects that and Liverpool get back to looking like Liverpool, and then of course I'm open to being won back around. But a couple of things have to stop. The stupid press conference comments definitely have to stop. The revisionism has to stop. But like everybody else, I want a successful Liverpool. And if that's a successful Liverpool with Arne Slot as head coach, grand. But right now, I'm not one back around. No, not now. But as a fan, your opinion should always evolve. If you have an opinion and it doesn't change, despite evidence to the contrary, you have an agenda then. It's not an opinion anymore. It's an agenda. And it's been that way. Like Curtis Jones is a good example for me. I wanted Curtis Jones run out of the football club 2 years ago. I thought he was an absolute waste of time and never ever going to be anything worth keeping about at Liverpool. But then when Arne came in, I seen him get better. And I thought, okay, there's a difference here. And I talked about it. I was unsure about Ryan Gravenberch when we signed him. I was questioning why Bayern Munich were willing to sell a player, still that young, that was that highly regarded. He'd gone from Ajax to Bayern, but I was very wrong about that. And very quickly, my fears were allayed. But it's not that deep. Like, people try to pigeonhole all of us into this. Well, you said this once, so that's it forever. No, it isn't. Like, A good example is when I met my wife, it wasn't love at first sight. I didn't look at my wife when as soon as I met her and thought this is the woman I'm going to marry. I knew my wife for 3 years before we start dating, and it was one of those slow burners. So, yeah, everything in life, your opinion varies and changes depending on the circumstances presented to you. What have we got? Oh, let's talk Canada for a minute. Our friends at Ficajes, we know they have a special residence on Bullshit Island. So Ficajes say that Real Madrid have reignited their interest in Liverpool centre-back Ibrahima Konate. The Frenchman has returned to form in recent weeks, but still hasn't signed an extension to a contract which expires in the summer. Every fucking day. I don't know a football club that are more hot and cold on players and with links around them than Real Madrid. It is honestly mental. 1 week they love him, next week they don't want him. Another week they love him, then they don't want him again. Love him, don't want him, love him, don't want him. Make up your bleeding mind. There was even a report recently enough that said they contacted Liverpool to say that they have no interest in Ibrahima Konate. So, yeah, let's wait and see what happens there. But I don't know if it's just me, but I feel a little bit more confident recently about the possibility of Konate staying. Maybe it's just me, but I do feel a little bit more confident that may happen. Right, so poll running, we said, who would you take as a Mohamed Salah replacement? Got 4 options for you: Elise, Doué, Nico Williams, and Diamonde. The reason why those names are up there on the list was because of a post from Anfield Edition crediting Graham Bailey, and they say, as well as Bayern Munich's Michael Elise, Liverpool have RB Leipzig's Jan Diamonde, Athletic Club's Nico Williams, and Paris Saint-Germain duo Bradley Barcola and Desiree Doué, all on their list of potential heirs to Mohamed Salah at Liverpool. Aaron said, hey Craig, how's you and your family doing? Listening to your show, you and Connor are great at doing your stuff. Thank you, Aaron. Family are good, mate. Yeah, good, thank you. My son's on a midterm, so he's got a week off school, so he's loving life. Yeah, everyone's healthy, happy. Can't ask much more than that, my man. So appreciate you asking, and I hope all is well with you. Excuse me. I always panic though when Liverpool's quiet, because Channel gets quiet, and then I start to think that's the end of it. Everyone's leaving, time to pack up and close down the shop. Real Madrid has an on and off switch. It's crazy, right? Like it's genuinely crazy. The amount of nonsense that goes on around that club. Barca beat by Girona. Wow, and Madrid now league leaders. That's crazy. How did they lose to Girona? Like, Girona have had an awful season. It's not a great result. Hansi Flick, will he last the season at this point? Wow. Aaron said, all's well with me, Craig. Just busy looking for work. Nothing as of yet. Oh, I totally feel that, mate. I feel your pain. My daughter was searching for such a long time. She'd so many false dawns and part-time offers, and she was honestly, I don't think I'm exaggerating to say she was 6 months looking to get anything full-time. And I'm not talking about like a high-end college-driven job. I'm talking minimum wage in a cafe kind of job. Now, she's settled in now and she's loving life and she's really happy in her job, and I'm delighted for her. But I totally empathise, man, with anybody who's out there looking for a bit of work and struggling. I'm very blessed to what I get to do. John Smith said, Rodrigo from Madrid is a Salah replacement. The thing that would worry me there, mate, would probably be the wages and the fee involved. We obviously had a long-held interest in Rodrigo Goes from when he was at Santos, we tried to sign him. He decided to stay and keeps working at his studies and then ended up going to Real Madrid. But we nearly had him for something like £500,000 or something like that. How do you see the future of Cone Doherty? A loan is probably the best thing to do for Trent Cone Doherty, because I can't really see him getting a chance in the first team anytime soon. Marcus said, Craig, I've given up on the season, but I think we could have a big push for the Champions League. I hope so, because last season felt very underwhelming with the Champions League. You know, we did so well in the league phase of it, and then to go out in the first knockout round to PSG felt like we were out of that competition too early, in all honesty. 123 Jam said, Craig, no one will leave your channel, the best out there. Well, I hope not. Like I said to you guys recently, it's no accident you're seeing more O'Connor these days. You know, I've always said I don't know how long I have left in this industry. So I'm kind of in my Mohamed Salah mode at the minute, where I'm just trying to enjoy everything, you know, as much as I can, because I don't know how much longer I have doing this. So yeah, I'm glad that people are still here, and I hope they stick with us, because I have a lot still we want to achieve in whatever time we have left. Keane said, Rodrigo has 3 goals this season. Is that a 60 to 70 million pound player with massive wages? No. And I don't really like bringing in players from Real Madrid, because I don't know. It's just even the way he talks about Real Madrid. It would just always feel like we were a second best option. Jaden said, Craig, who would you say of this current squad will be the second Liverpool player to win a Ballon d'Or for the future? Or will Salah stay and have one last big season? Unfortunately, I think last season was the chance for Mo. And if we had gone a little bit deeper in the Champions League, I really think he would have had a very good show for it. So no, I don't think it'll be him. I think Wirtz, like I've said, for me it feels like Florian Wirtz is the one I would single out right now as having the best chance. Virgil was robbed of a Ballon d'Or. Nobody's ever going to convince me that year that he didn't deserve that Ballon d'Or, and the year Messi won it. It should have been Virgil's. But I would say Florian Wirtz, off the top of my head, would be the most likely. Alisson went God mode against PSG. Indeed he did. Indeed he did. Over there, God almighty, I still, you can watch that game 100 times and you're still surprised that we won that game over there 1-0. Billy Beckner said, I just think we should avoid Madrid players in general. They develop egos during their time in Madrid. We don't need that here. Well, I was watching. Trent even had an assist yesterday, or Saturday, and he was still taken off the 60-minute mark for what's his name, Danny Carvajal. So I've always said this: the Madrid fans love Danny Carvajal, and Trent's going in there up against it really to win them round. I didn't realise the Albi lad has 66's brother as an agent. Is that true? I'm not actually sure who represents him, but I do know the likelihood of him leaving Liverpool looks like it's increased in recent months. I think he's even liked a few posts suggesting a move to Manchester City or Arsenal. He's training with the first team at 15 years of age, so scoring hat-tricks for the under-18s at 15 years of age. So I don't know what happens in his future, but a shame for Liverpool to lose any young player of that calibre. What's your view on Trent's brother? I don't really have one, in all honesty. I've never met the lad, don't know him, don't really want to, so I don't really have a view on him. I don't know much about the fella. He just looks like a very unlikable lad. From the few pictures I've seen, he always seems to have a little smirk on his face, but Yeah, I don't know much about him, so I'm certainly not going to judge him in life. I want to go back to the stat I was telling you guys about earlier on that Sky brought up, comparing the 4 signings made centrally from 4 Premier League clubs this year. Obviously, there's no Isak in this, but the Hugo Ekitike, the Victor Gyökeres, Benjamin Sesko, and Nick Vultmada. Those 4 are, Manchester United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Newcastle's centre forwards this season for the majority of it. And it is clear from Sky Sports graphic that Liverpool have certainly benefited the most from that investment in a centre forward position, because Hugo Ekitike has played 23 games, scored 10 goals, where you've got Gyökeres, 24 games, 8 goals, Benjamin Sesko, 21 games, 6 goals, Nick Vultmada, 23 games, 7 goals. But the really interesting stat for Hugo was that he went from underperforming his XG massively at Frankfurt to overperforming his XG at Liverpool, where he scored 10 goals from an XG of 8.4. The only stat that he doesn't lead the race in with all of those players is shots per 90, where Benjamin Sesko averages 3.6 shots per 90 minutes compared to 3.4 from Ekitike, 2.1 from Victor Gyökeres, and 1.9 from Nick Vultmada. So what do we think on that one? Is Diamonde the most Liverpool-type prospect of the above, one that fits the model the most? See, I would be very tempted to say yes to you, El Scouse, but they're talking over €100 million for Yan Diamonde in a lot of the pieces that I've seen. Now, I know Romano, I think it was the other day, put out something to say that they hadn't quite set the price fully yet, but a lot of the conversation has been upwards of €100 million. Now, for somebody that's had a breakthrough season at 19 in the Bundesliga, it's getting into the realms of craziness to be talking about €100 million, which is about, what, 80 odd million pound, 82 million pounds, something like that. I don't know, is he that clearly that good that we're talking about him as €100 million player already at, like, after one season breaking through in the Bundesliga? I just think it's too high, unless we're talking about a Lamine Yamal level player here, because he's not the finished article. The Bundesliga is a good league, but it's not really right up there with the Premier League for levels. So I don't know, 100 million just seems steep. So we asked, who would you take as a Salah replacement? And Michael Elise, by a long way, topped the poll with 67% of the votes. He was your number one choice. Craig, is it possible for you to give the name of the artist who done the beautiful painting for the office? I'd like to get something special done myself. Yeah, the gentleman's name was, oh God, excuse me for a second. Let me just grab the picture because it's on the picture. I'm terrible at remembering names. Bear with me 1 second. It's Wayne Henley Art. Wayne Henley. Henley. Wayne Henley Art. I don't know if he still has his website up, but yeah, that was the gentleman that done it. Now, he still has the original of the Jurgen Klopp painting. We only have a print of that one, but we bought the original of the Conor Bradley one. Dave Sharp will say, Craig, Yan Diamonde looks like the real deal. Sweet, but still €100 million. I mean, football just seems like it's losing its mind money-wise at the minute. When are you moving to the new place? I'm hoping roughly 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, something like that. There's still a few finishing touches needs to be done. And then we need to go through the technical setup where we need to just walk through and test everything. So I'm away for a week in March, so I hope to at least have done a stream on there before I head away. So yeah, next month is the plan. We're almost there. There's still a few bits and pieces to be done. We've still a lot of memorabilia to hang, but the bones of the groundwork is done. The building is pretty much finished. Yeah, just exciting. It's going to be weird though, because I've spent my entire YouTube career on a green screen. So to be moving away into a real life studio setup is it's a bit daunting, to be honest with you. Craig, I'm an Arsenal fan. Am I allowed to be here? We welcome in everybody, mate. Absolutely everybody. You're more than welcome to be here and welcome. All that we ever ask is that you and others are respectful to each other. But of course, mate, this is, a community for everybody. If you love football, let's come in and have a chat. Why is Reece Williams still here and he never made it? All of his loans really just did not go well, Jaden. Whether it be lower tier clubs or whatever, he just wasn't getting game time. Even up, I think he went to Aberdeen and wasn't getting game time, which is unfortunate because he did help us out that season for Champions League qualification when we were really stuck. But I think his contract is up at the end of this season, if I'm not mistaken. Crazy that Schmadtke and Jurgen rebuilt this midfield in one window. Gravenberch, MACCA, Endo, Szoboszlai, props to them. Around 110 million quid. Absolutely. That window and that midfield was sensational. Yeah, even the very, very late. We had to get in quite quickly, didn't we, before Szoboszlai's release clause expired. So yeah, we had an unbelievable window. That window with regards to midfield. I know we were disappointed because we never got Caicedo, and that still hurts. But central midfielder wise, wow, what a few signings they were. Andrew James said, I really wanted Wrexham as I live in Wrexham. Would have been a great match. I think we all had a hope that maybe Wrexham, just for the romanticism of it all. But look, the racecourse ground against Chelsea, that's going to be an interesting game. And maybe we get them in the next round. Hoping, they knock out Chelsea. But look, I'm okay with the draw that we did get. I predicted West Ham. That was my guess before the draw. But if you haven't seen the full FA Cup draw for the 5th round, it's Fulham, Southampton, Port Vale or Bristol City versus Sunderland, Newcastle versus Man City, Leeds versus Norwich, Mansfield Town versus Arsenal, Wolves versus Liverpool, Wrexham versus Chelsea, and West Ham versus, let me just see the result of tonight's tie, Brentford, who beat Macclesfield 1-0. So there we go. So we do know now it's West Ham against Brentford. So an all Premier League tie. Would I sack Arteta? Oh, you're talking to Gooner, because I'm saying, yeah, I'd sack Arteta if he doesn't win one of the big two this year. And I think Arsenal fans really should be questioning that situation if they don't. Craig, how are we going to have midstream arguments with Sabrina when you move into the studio? I won't, is the long and short of it, which is, I think, a good thing. Look, my wife's been very, very kind. She's done without her living room for every evening pretty much for the last 7 or 8 years. So I don't think she'll be too sad to get rid of me out of the living room and out into the office. Alejandro said, I think MACCA was Ward's deal overall, but Schmadtke did a fantastic job getting Szoboszlai, Gravenberch and Endo. It was just a great summer, wasn't it? It was just a great time, that midfield. To do it all in the guts of a window, as you said, yeah, it's looking back at it now, it certainly looks like very good value for money. We're not going to lose another league game. We're going to win the league. Let's go. I wish I had your optimism, bro. I wish I had that optimism, but certainly the next 4 league games are looking winnable. We've got Nottingham Forest away next Sunday. Then we've got West Ham at home, Wolves away, and then it is who's the last one after that? Spurs at home. Craig, can you congratulate Arsenal we win the league? Well, anybody that's been watching the channel, bro, knows that I have said publicly many, many, many times I will absolutely congratulate Arsenal if they win the league without any hesitation whatsoever. And what I won't do is what some Arsenal fans did to us, which is try to undermine the league title win. I will give you the full credit you deserve. Biggie Mall said, how good does it feel to say The Office? It still seems surreal. So when I'm going to bed every night, my stairs are in the middle of our house. So I walk up the stairs and there's a window at the top of the landing. And every night when I'm going to bed, I walk up the stairs and I stand at the top of the landing and I look out the little window at the office in the garden. And it still doesn't feel real. You know, it's still, even when I walk out into the back garden for a bit of air or whatever, just to see it there in front of me, it just doesn't feel real. Craig, got any updates on the arcade player? Not yet, no, Jaden, no updates. It's due to arrive in the next couple of weeks. In all honesty, it's kind of just waiting for it. I think the guy gets them in batches, so yeah, I'm looking forward to getting it in. We're making waves. Did I show you guys the logo? I think I showed you the logo we have on the wall. One sec. I'm almost certain I've showed you the logo, but if I haven't, let me show it to you now. So here is a little sneak at one of the walls in the studio. Let me just drag this down a bit, make it a little bit smaller. There you go. So that is got to be one of the walls in the studio. It's not finished. There's a few touch-ups to be done around the edges of that. A bit of mask and tape problems, so we touched that red up. But that's one of the walls in the office, shall we say? And yeah, looking forward to it. It's a very proud moment to see our logo on that big on a wall. Like, it's pretty cool. Oh, we got something for the office for Lucas, actually. We got this for Lucas for the office. That's my son there. As you can see, he takes after his father with the kindness there, with the hand gestures. But yeah, we promised him a beanbag when we got the office. So my wife brought him out and got him a beanbag chair. Because, you know, he'll be out in that space as well. So, you know, it's not just for me, it's for my son to use as well. So yeah, as you can see, he takes after his father in the subtlety department. Me and him have this ongoing competition to see how many times we can get the number one into a sentence so we can stick our finger up at each other. It's an ongoing battle. But I've told you guys the story about going through airport security and that with him. He's definitely my son. No DNA test needed. I know just by his attitude he's my child. Peter, how are you, bro? Said Craig, what's your top 3 best signings under Kloppo? Oh, really easy. I've talked about it so many times I don't even have to think about this one. It's Alisson, Virgil and Salah. Those 3. Now, I could make a very valid argument there for Bobby Firmino because he's, you know, somebody I absolutely love. But it's got to be those 3. Has to be. You know, without those 3, I don't think Liverpool have the success we've had in recent history. So without a doubt, for me, make those 3. Cool, but meant senior at academy player injury update. Jaden, I don't really know too much about the academy. I don't keep an eye on it, mate. Senior player injury update. There isn't really much. We still don't have a return date for Frimpong or Bradley. Leone's the summer. March/April seems to be the perceived wisdom for Isak. Yeah, other than that, mate, don't know what the situations with Endo yet. Arna said it'll be at least a month, but we don't really know after that. You know, when I get the news, I'll certainly be on to talk about it. Black and white beanbag, should it not be red and white? You do realise it's a football, right? It's a football. And footballs, usually when somebody's doing up an image of a football, they're usually black and white. So that's the reason that it's black and white, mate. And no, it shouldn't be red because it needs a bit of contrast out there in the studio as well. You know, you can't have everything the one colour. Did I show you the Bradley painting? If I haven't showed you the Bradley painting, let me know and I'll show it to you. But yeah, the Conor Bradley painting is absolutely amazing. And we finally got it framed up. One sec. Where is cheats? Where are you? This one. There you go. Nope, I won't come in. Why won't you come in? Go to there, then put it in. Oh god, so feckin' big. I hate when these things never size properly. Nope, still too big. Yeah, so there's the Conor Bradley painting. There we go. Just about in frame there. That's our there we go. Yeah, that's our Conor Bradley painting. That's an original painting that is just, you know, awesome. I can't believe we're actually going to have that in the office. But is Conor moving in as well? No. It's my office for my family and my house. It's yeah, no, it's absolutely a Craig thing. Plus Conor lives over an hour away from me, so it's very rare that we're together anyway. Maybe once a month we'd meet up. So there we go. That's the painting. Right, sorry, I was trying to keep up with the chat. Could you rent it out during off-peak hours? The office? No. What I do want to do, and I've said this to you guys before, is I want to get Garda vetted, which is our police force. So I want to get police clearance, and then I want to be able to approach youth clubs and stuff like that, so I can try to help the next generation understand their options when it comes to monetizing content. You know, and I want to help teach people how to edit a podcast. I want to help teach people the pitfalls of social media and the downsides of the potential desires to become an influencer. These are the type of things that I want to give back. And that's a big part of why we wanted to build the studio, is to eventually go get that and be able to do that to help the next generation of local kids here. You know, in a world where everything's becoming automated and we don't know what jobs there will be in the future and stuff, we we definitely want to make sure that, you know, we can give a bit back. And, you know, just there's not much of an influencer, what's the word I'm looking for? Network here in Ireland. If you're into beauty products and stuff, yes. But for football, there's not really agencies or anything really that look after young content creators over here. So it's something I've always thought we could have a hand in, because we had to forge our own way here. You know, it's much more difficult. If I lived in mainland UK, I'd probably have a lot more opportunities. But why would you need vetting? You always have to. When you're working with under 18s in Ireland, mate, you have to have police vetting clearance, and rightly so. You know, you want to make sure your kids are with somebody who, you know, hasn't got a dodgy past or anything like that. So yeah, everybody. My daughter's a gymnastics instructor, and she has to be Garda vetted for her job, or part-time job, excuse me. She works in a cafe full-time, but she's a part-time gymnast instructor. So right, so let's walk you back through our main stories of the evening, ladies and gents. So there was an exclusive from the Daily Mirror that said Manchester United considering a shock Alexis McAllister transfer raid. Oh, look, I've disappeared again. There I am, I'm back. That's happened on YouTube a few times lately. Just either goes blue for a second or it disappear for a second, then I come back. But yeah, that's happened a couple of times on YouTube. So yeah, anyway, Alexis McAllister, we've rubbished that story. There was another, oh, it's done it again. There was another story, I'm just standing still here for a second. I'm just getting a bit wobbly. Yeah, it's done it again and gone blue. There was another story linking Ibrahim Konate with Real Madrid, and they said that they've stepped up their interest again in him. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there with that blue thing. It's happened a few times. I must check all the connections on the camera and stuff. Yeah, it happened again, yeah. Sorry about that. Freaks me out when it happens because I'm looking at myself and I always have OBS open so I can see the scene that I'm in. And then I disappear off screen. So I'm just a magician, really. You know, David Blaine hasn't got a patch on me. Oh, do you know what I got today? I finally collected my Wegovy prescription today. So we're going to be starting that on Monday. So like I said before, keep your fingers crossed for me. I'm hoping that by the time we're sitting here talking in 9 months or a year, you're looking at a lot less of me. So yeah, keep your fingers crossed for me. We'll be starting that on Monday. The reason I'm starting it on Monday is a very simple one. We have our company Christmas dinner coming up this week, and I am fecked if I'm missing out on that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's nice. We didn't get a chance to do it over Christmas because it was so busy. So we're going out for a meal this weekend. Peter, Craig, your top 3 best players of the last 20 years. Messi, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, probably. If you mean in general, like probably Messi, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho. And I have 2 of those and signed shirts ready for the office. I think you can guess which one I don't have. Well, actually, I have a Ronaldo, just not Cristiano Ronaldo. Craig, you're aware that using magic in front of muggles is illegal. You better hope Professor Snap doesn't scold you for breaking Hogwarts rules. See, I don't know anything about Harry Potter, so that I'm just proud that I understood what that was. I even understood it before we got to the Hogwarts part, to be honest, but I've never read any of the Harry Potter books, so don't really know anything about it. I've been to Harry Potter World in Universal Studios, but yeah, I don't know anything about it. I hated Ronaldo at United, but was in awe of his talent, such speed and power. The whole time he was at United, I was just annoyed that we didn't spend the money to sign him because we had the chance to get in there before United, and Liverpool, the story goes anyway, didn't want to pay 10 million quid for an 18-year-old. Fair to say that doesn't look like a great decision all these years later. Firmino was at Liverpool just before Klopp took over. Yeah, the deal was agreed under the Brendan Rodgers era, I think. But I think, look, part of me thinks that it was agreed knowing that Jurgen was coming in. You know, because for Liverpool to go sign a player from Hoffenheim, it just feels a little bit, I don't know. I think that was done with Jurgen in mind. Any love for the pancakes, Craig, tomorrow? Oh, of course. I mean, they probably won't get any in the house, but I love pancakes. Do I look like a man who doesn't love pancakes? Yeah, pancakes. I'm a simple bitch, though. Just either maple syrup and cream or sugar and lemon. Right, let's run through everything one more time before we finish up. So, stories for today. A post from X that caught our attention was from a guy called Dom, who said Szoboszlai is the first Liverpool central midfielder since Steven Gerrard to reach double-digit goals, which is even more insane as he played several games at right back. Madrid Zone had a post from Vinny Jr. He was asked, do I have friends outside Real Madrid? Yes, I talked to Dominic Szoboszlai a lot. I've known him since we were younger. Then there was that crazy story with Manchester United shock potential move for Alexis McAllister. Arne Slot on whether Szoboszlai could be a future Liverpool captain. He said yes, but he's still young. I think he has a lot of attributes already, especially when it comes to leading by example. But there's still a step to make in terms of leadership, being vocal, being a voice in the dressing room. If I compare him to Virgil van Dijk, which is completely normal because Virgil's 34 and has already seen probably James Milner or Jordan Henderson and these players. So it's really good for Dominic that he sees Virgil as well. That will be a next step for him to be as vocal and as loud as Virgil is. That comes with time, I think. But for all the other things, there's a lot to become a very influential player at Liverpool and call that a leader. Then we spoke about the Bayern Space account, who basically, in a very articulate and well-worded post, said that there's no chance that we lose Florian Wirtz back to Germany or to Spain, and that he knows that he's at the peak and the summit of world football with Liverpool. We talked about Jurgen Klopp and his long-term advisor, saying he's extremely happy with what he's achieved and is still wonderful to go down in history as one of the few coaches who only managed 3 clubs and was never fired. Graham Bailey credited as saying, as well as Bayern Munich's Michael Elise, Liverpool have RB Leipzig's Jan Diamonde, Athletic Club's Nico Williams, and PSG duo Bradley Barcola and Desiree Doué all on the list as potential heirs to Mohamed Salah. We then ran through the stats from Hugo Ekitike, showing that he is head and shoulders above Gyökeres, Šeško and Voltmata so far this season. The FA Cup 5th round draw proper is Fulham versus Southampton, Port Vale or Bristol City versus Sunderland, Newcastle versus Manchester City, Leeds versus Norwich, Mansfield Town versus Arsenal, Wolves versus Liverpool, Wrexham versus Chelsea, and West Ham versus Brentford. Then we have the fact that Liverpool will play Wolves twice over the course of a week, 3rd of March in the league and the 7th or 8th of March in the FA Cup. And the last story we had for you was Real Madrid have reignited their interest in Liverpool centre-back Ibrahim Konate. The Frenchman has returned to form in recent weeks, but still hasn't signed an extension to a contract that expires in the summer. Peter said no Liverpool players. Last 20 years, right. Gerrard, Firmino, Alisson would probably be my answer there. Gerrard, Firmino, Alisson, if it's Liverpool players of the last 20 years. Then will come Mohamed Salah, Virgil van Dijk, Sami Hyypiä, Luis Suarez, Fernando Torres. So yeah, I mean, it's difficult to whittle it down to 3, but any list I have of the last 20 years has to have Bobby in it, because I love Bobby. No, like Eli said, Leone is built like a tank. I have a feeling he's going to come back and look great. Wirtz tore his ACL too young, but didn't lose a step. Yeah, as soon as I seen the image of Giovanni Leone standing over Lukaku and throwing him around like a rag doll, I thought to myself, oh, hello, what a monster of a fellow we're bringing in here. And I know we only got to see 85 or 86 minutes of him, but I can't wait for him to be back, and I certainly hope his rehab is going well. And he's, he'll be back mid-season, or summer, and hopefully ready to go for a pre-season. Lord Flab said, Craig, who are your ideal transfers? Schlotterbeck, Wharton, and Elise would probably be the 3 that jump off the top of my head. So Schlotterbeck as a centre-back. Hard to really know, though, because we don't know what we need at centre-back yet with regards to experience. Bastoni would be another one, of course, I'd love. Midfield, I think Wharton's the most likely for the 6. And then up top, I'd love Michael Elise, ideally. But I don't think that's going to be possible. Right, look, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wind this one down and say goodnight to you all. We'll be back tomorrow, and don't forget, there'll be no morning video, there'll be no Connor morning video, because he's away for a few days, so I'll see you guys probably at 9 o'clock tomorrow night, because I know there's some Champions League playoffs taking point this week, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll have a news video in the afternoon, and then, of course, I'll be here tomorrow evening as well for the Late Night Agenda. Thank you all for another fun stream. If you can, before you head off, hit that subscribe button. Most importantly, do drop a like on the stream, and don't forget to enter into our giveaway to win that framed and signed Jurgen Klopp shirt completely free. Scan the QR code on the screen or use the link in the description for more details. And if you fancy anything from thecollectorscorner.co.uk, a reminder, you can get 20% off with our code Anfield Agenda 1. Right, have a good one, but do hit that like button for me before you head off, ladies and gents. I'll be keeping an eye on the numbers, and I hope that you don't let me down. Talk to you tomorrow.